start this program by saying God is a good God. This is the reality. Greetings in the precious name of Jesus. Welcome, the choices. We anticipate a great time with you in the presence of the Lord as we continue our discussion on this topic, parenting. This is a God given assignment and responsibility. As parents, each day of our lives, we must make a good and healthy deposit in the memory bank of our children and create a loving, happy, and stable home for them. We should be the greatest role models for our children. The best kind of parent anyone could be is to lead by example. Psalm chapter 127, verses 3 to 5 reminds us that children are a heritage from the Lord. Let's treat them with respect and dignity. God bless you. God continue to bless beautiful Guyana. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned. God bless you.
You know, in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, the Apostle Paul writing, he says, I'm reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you. It says, for this reason I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of hands. Paul, if we back up a little, the Apostle Paul was making the point that, look, Timothy, you have a good foundation. Your mother and your grandmother, you have a good foundation. And so now it is time for a storing. And so foundation is always important. If any child is going to do well, if any child is going to advance, foundation is important. And who is responsible for building that foundation? First, the parents. And so if the foundation is faulty, obviously the structure that goes upon the foundation will be faulty. And that is how sometimes you have structures come crumbling or tumbling down, as we would say, because the foundation is not good. So every parent, you have a responsibility of setting a foundation for children to stand on. And that foundation would include social, spiritual, economic. These are foundations that you have to set. So child rearing and caring is not confined to just making them, producing them, but we have to set that foundation for the child to advance economically, education, teaching, training, coaching, mentorship. These things are important. If you talk about social development, it is important. You're talking about supervision. You're talking about monitoring. You're trying to ensure that children don't grow up on their own. No child should have to grow up on that child's own. They have to be guided. They must be a pathway for them to move in order for them to progress. So when we decided, look, we are going to start a family, we have to think spiritual, we have to think economic or financial, and we have to think social. Do we want our children to grow up and just running in the streets? We want them to be robbing? No, we don't want that. We want them to grow as good, productive human beings. And therefore, the involvement of parents is critical in setting that platform. As Paul said, I know this faith that I'm talking about. It lived in Eunice and it lived in light, and it got to be in you. So what you got to do now, we're going to store it up. And every child should be stored up in this country to good works if the foundation is set in first with the parents. Gentlemen.
the spiritual aspect of the upbringing, because we can always get them to that place socially, financially, educationally. And if there's no balance, if they have no understanding of their relationship to God and the things of God, it can interfere with their holistic development and function as a human being. I recall as a youngster, all the Sunday schools in my community growing up in Kitty, you had to go. I could not say, Mama ain't going. We had to go as youngsters. So that foundation there was set in place. And as we see in the life of Timothy himself, his mother being that example, setting that example by demonstrating her faith in God and ensuring that her son learned what it means to trust God in every situation. And so I believe having that foundation laid spiritually can be the springboard to the economic, the social, and the educational development, because there's an understanding of who you are as an individual and whose you are.
I do agree with you that nothing beats a spiritual foundation. The balance really comes from that spiritual foundation. But I also recognize that the value of our social growth. I'm sure you as an audience will agree with me that you love to see your child develop mentally and socially. You love to see your child become responsible. You love to see your child learn how to manage relationships. You love to see your child develop a proper attitude. These are all social developments. You love to see that your child understand what it is to work and work hard and to work among a team. I'm sure you would love to see that. Those are all social responsibilities a child learns. What about timing and self-discipline? What about the issue of integrity and developing a vision? These are all skill sets that you are hoping that as your child spends time with you and with the community, they will learn how to master them. You know, I remember as I speak of several years ago, a mother who came to see me just around 2:30 one afternoon. She had visited the school. She was invited to a meeting with the leaders of the school, one of the premier schools in Guyana. And when she left that meeting, she was so broken that she took a taxi and came straight to my office. When she came to the office, she was weeping as if her mother had died. She's sobbing, and I could still hear her songs. It haunts me up to this day. Oh, Pastor, oh, Pastor, oh, Pastor, I am losing my daughter, and I don't know what to do. Those voices can't leave my head. And when I sat down with her and listened to the challenges she was facing, indeed, it was time to weep. But what was even more painful was that she didn't know what to do. But I'm so happy that she came to the church for help, because that child eventually remained in school and graduated from high school. And more than that, graduated from university. And so sometimes I heard Dr. Hudson talk about the whole issue of mentoring and coaching. Sometimes it is necessary for these skills to really develop, to provide some form of supervision and to prevent addictions. Oh boy, it is a mammoth task, but I think we can do it together.
Reverend Tassana, thank you so much for sharing that experience. And we want to commend you as part of this panel. And I believe more and more we will have to do that. Uh, Doing things that coming out of our comfort zone, going beyond and above to bring the kind of support that we need to see our children grow and develop. I love how Dr. Hudson, what I would call, put the long-term goals for our children, that spiritual, that social, that economic development that we want to see in our children to grow and to develop and to become. And then he sort of narrow it down to objectives, like what parents and caregivers have to do, the monitoring, the coaching, the mentoring. And I really want to thank God for the kind of support that parents and caregivers receive in the rearing and caring of their children. I recall for many years, I share an example. For many years, I served in the leadership of young people at our local church at First Assembly, and also at the sectional level. And I recall one parent saying to me in frustration, she's trying to get her daughter to register at the University of Guyana to start a program. And apparently the child did not understand the registration process. Of course, this was pre-online registration. And you had to actually go into the university, spend some time, and the child expressed frustration and all of that. But I'm saying all that to say, we have to go alongside and help. And so 1 year, she missed the registration dates for September semester. She missed the registration date for January semester. So after the parent shared the frustration, I took it upon myself, and I believe it was the wisdom of God also, to I applied for 1 day leave on my job, and I went with the child to the University of Guyana. We spent the entire day, but the end result is that she was registered. I had to do that for a young man also subsequently. But the point is, we have to come alongside and monitor and give guidance and give support, because that is what will help them to see that people care, that somebody is willing to go beyond and above to help them to achieve. So let us keep doing what we're doing to help our children to grow and to develop and to come into that long-term goal and to achieve those goals of being empowered spiritually, economically, and socially.
Dr. Lee is, many of you don't know, you know him as a soldier, you know him as a Dr. Lee, but was a national rugby player. But Dr. Lee understands the concept of coaching. Why would a team need a coach, Dr. Lee? Why do we need a coach?
Well, all teams or all successful teams that in any sporting discipline, you will note that they have very good coaches. The coach is responsible for, to my mind, identifying potentials, not just necessarily on only raw skills. So the coach identifies, and the coach has the unique responsibility for owning those skills and bringing them to the fore, or making those potential become a reality. And he or she has to find a unique way in terms of nurturing that. Let me cite an example. You know, as a parent, I've been blessed with 2 children, and even though they are from the same father and mother, the approach in terms of nurturing them has had to be different. Time had to be spent studying their own idiosyncrasies and peculiarities. And so sometimes, you know, we can frustrate children if we attempt a one-size-fits-all approach in terms of nurturing. So back to the coach. I mean, a team of 12, a team of 15, as in the case of rugby, well, you have extra players and all of that. You have to be able to identify the unique qualities and skill in each of them and see how you can bring it together to make the team efficient. Some teams have a few star players, but they will never, ever win a championship because the dependence is on those few star players. But if you're able to bring all together, bring all the skills to the table, look at those teams that are successful, and you'll see the ability of the coach to bring all those to the table.
I would like to add also that, and thanks for that, Dr. Lee. I think you were very explicit in terms of why we need a coach, and that's a tough question I would like to add the issue of accountability. You know, when you're in a team, you can't function any way you want. So coach brings the issue of accountability. That we talk about star players. They had a Brazilian player. He used to, I think it's Romario. He's a star boy, but he would want to turn up at any time, sleep out in hotels, go with the ladies and so on, and think that you could just come in the team and perform. So the issue of accountability, because if you keep allowing that, it would the entire team could degenerate into lawlessness. The issue of accountability, the issue of personalized feedback. I think Doc mentioned it. The personalized feedback. A coach said, "Come by, come, go. Let me explain something to you. Your play is bad, but your play can improve if you move in a certain way." And of course, the whole thing about encouragement. I look at Angelo Dundee, and it's amazing. This thing you could be gifted as a coach. You could train yourself as a coach. Angelo Dundee never threw a punch in boxing, but Angelo Dundee was one of the greatest boxing coaches, and that cannot be disputed. The world has ever seen. He was the coach of the great Muhammad Ali, but he was never a boxer. But he took time to study and to say, you know what, I could mentor. Muhammad Ali really achieved a lot of things because of this man, Angelo Dundee. The same thing we could say with Cosby Amato with Mike Tyson. The moment Cosby Amato walked out of Mike Tyson, like when he died, you know, things went haywire. But the other important thing for me as a coach is goal setting. Coach, you know, I am not a basketball player, but I look and I see it back in the days of Dennis Rodman. You have to forgive me because I come back from the time. I would see the coach and some of you see drawing diagrams and say you're gonna attack the right on the thing. He has this board, and this board say you will go there, you will go there, and so on. It's strategizing. And these are things that are very critical for parents to set goals, to encourage, you understand me, to train, to give feedback to children. Look, you're not performing well in your exams. I need the exams to come up. Personalized feedback. So coach is so important. A mentor is so important. We probably could use them we could interchangeably, but these people are so important in terms of our personal advancement. And who better could be a coach than your parents at the beginning of your life?
Look at the Apostle Paul as a coach. I mean, I'm just loving all this conversation of you know, about coaching and so on. This is something else. Look at the Apostle Paul as a coach in that same scripture that we read earlier, 2 Timothy 1. When I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in thee, hear this, which was forced in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice. This is another level of coaching. This man gone back into generations.
The legacy.
This man,
Yeah.
yes, this man, it meant that
Yeah.
his coaching was at another level. He even looking at this young man, first of all, he's seeing, he traced something. That means he had eyes to see way back and to trace it. That means you're talking about as another level of diligence, another level of recognition. And we know the law of recognition says anything that is unrecognized is uncelebrated. Anything that is uncelebrated is unrewarded. And anything that is unrewarded exits your life. And so sometimes it takes somebody from the outside with uncommon eyes to see the value, to see the gift. Because why did he need to tell Timothy this? He's bringing to his remembrance, and this is what we need to do. We need to come alongside. This is what we're saying, you know, and encourage to store, mix that gift into the life, you know, and once we recognize, you know, we allow them to see it for themselves. They will be gainfully employed. We're going to look at the economical, we're going to look at the social, we're going to look at the spiritual, everything will come together. And society will be a much richer and better place.
We mustn't run away with the idea. You know, sometimes people run away with the idea, believe, you know, storing up could be really discomforting at times, you know. And you really bringing out, and like a coach, a mentor and all of that, you have perceived and you've seen the stuff that this child or these young people are capable of doing. And so it's not no kitten gloves that you have to treat them with at times. You have to make some strong demands. And, sometimes, you lift your voice and, you demand, timings to wake up, timings to go to bed, how they must dress, how they must conduct themselves. So storing up, it's not like taking a pot spoon and you're storing water in a pot. It's making some hard demand on those persons. The aim is not to destroy them, but it's like a diamond. It's like a diamond in the rough. It has to go through the rigors of polishing, and scrubbing before you can see its beauty. It's like gold. You have to burn it. After you've gotten it with all that amalgam and quicksilver, you have to burn it to see the beauty of the gold. So at times, when as coach, as parents, we see the beauty in our children, we have to bring it to the fore. We got to really stir it up. It's not an easy thing. It's not a pot spoon with water. You got to dig it and bring it out. And then in the end, they will say thank you. So stirring up.
As we look at stirring it up, in economics, you learn something that's called the multiply effect. In essence, what it means, if you touch something, it has a reaction and it has another reaction. It's like a wave and it flows. The impact of the small changes that you make impacts the larger society in different ways. And how does this apply to stirring it up? When you stir it up, when you stir up and you impact and you mentor one or two, you're not just mentoring one or two. There's a community that you gain access to. There's a community that you start to influence. So you training or mentoring or stirring up the talents and the gifts in one person, in one young person, there's a multiply effect there. So don't look at it as, maybe it's only one person you can help. You can't help everybody. Just having a qualitative impact on one person's life is going to have an effect on an entire community. And if it's big enough, even on an entire generation. That's why when it comes to organizations designing programs to help people, it's important for them not to be focused so much about how successful a program is, but how successful the people become. And there's a transition that has to occur from being focused on, focus on programming to a focus on people development. And stirring it up is one of the things that will have a transformational effect on Guyana, especially as you enter this new phase, this new era of growth and development.
I love how you spoke about the whole notion of using stirring up to really impact the lives of people. And I think I just love the scripture and as it relates to the Apostle Paul and encouraging young Timothy. And it makes a case for the people with the gray hair. There's a place. And so many times we sort of look into the past and sort of speak of a lot of generational curses. But here it is, the Apostle Paul bringing out a legacy, bringing out something that worked in 2 generations before, and now can use it as a launching pad for this young man. And so as coaches, as parents, as caregivers, we have that duty, not just to tell them about the negatives, but more so to bring out the legacy, what worked in this family, and sort of harness that and allow it to as a launching pad for greater work in the lives and in the development of our children.
You got it right, Dr. Paul, because for too long, parents have been dwelling on the negative. You're going to become like, and they use that as a reference point. And that is something we need to get rid of. We must look for the positives, we must highlight the positive, and we must point them in the direction that can see them becoming what God has created them to be. And that parent will be proud because that child will not just become as an individual. The family name can become a village name, a community name, just because that child was nurtured, he or she was coached and was pointed in the right direction. The family now become recognized in the community.
I want to add quickly the issue of stress management. People believe rearing children is easy. we have had situations in this country where children actually committed suicide. They took their own lives because of a condition that was prevailing, whether it is among friends or whatever. And so a pivotal role of a coach also is to help manage stress.
Yeah.
And here is where coping strategies
Yeah.
are important, because life, we can't run away from it. You could be the greatest apostle, stress will come your way. And so we have to be able to teach children how to cope, how to ride the tide, how to endure the hardships. Some people give up. Some children, like I said, I have known as an educator, I've seen some children took their own life because they couldn't deal with certain circumstances around them. And here is where a parent has to sit down now and let children know, you see, in this life here, these things, there's a possibility that these things could happen. But when these things happen, this is what you do. You will hold firm to your foundation. You hold firm to the word of God. Stand upon the word. You will make it. You will survive. Just remain focused. And this too shall pass. You know, that kind of thing. So we have to do that kind of thing too, you know, with respect to our children.
You know, we say it takes a village to raise a child. Throughout this entire program this evening, today, we'll be looking at ways in which we can help each other to empower our children to live a purpose-driven life in the area of their social, spiritual, and economic development. We have highlighted the need for monitoring. We have highlighted the need and the power of supervision. We have highlighted the power of coaching and what it does. You want to use coaching or use mentoring, what it does, how it impacts. We've highlighted what stress will do, and if not monitored, the negative effects. We have also highlighted how addiction comes about. And we're praying that by the grace of God, knowledge will increase on this program, skill sets will grow, and that we will be able to create and develop, with the help of God, a better society, stronger youths, and great leaders who will lead us, once God tarry, into the next season of our development. May God bless us all. May He grant us the wisdom and strength. See you next time.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Silesia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.